before we begin. Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sanyavadi Pushtatar Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, let's let you view Bhagavad Gita. Where is it? Here it is. Hare Krishna. Okay, there is Bhagavad Gita as it is, text 13, chapter 13, text 31. We're beginning today. Let me just check how many slokas there are. I think it's 35. I looked earlier on. Yeah, 35 slokas. 35 slokas to complete chapter 13.
I think we'll do it.
Yeah. Okay. Someone like to begin reading?
Shall I?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
go on,
Yes.
go on.
No, go on, Mataji. No, you do it.
You
Right.
sure?
Yeah,
Enthusiastic.
positive. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
You can do the next one.
Okay.
Go on. Carry on. Rajkishore.
Yada bhuta pruthak ekastham anupashyati tat eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. Translation. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to a different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Purport. When one can see that the various bodies of living entities arise due to the different desires of the individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. This material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. After the destruction of the material body, the spiritual soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision, thus being freed from the differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. One becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse.
In the next
Thank
verse.
you.
Okay, thank you. So, any immediate questions or comments?
I think it will take a long time to understand that this body is this and spirit soul is different, and start seeing. I mean, how many of our devotees can see different bodies and different souls and all? This is a very high level.
Yes, what you're pointing out is I was going to mention a similar thing as well, that what's being mentioned here is not theoretical vision or theoretical knowledge, it's actually realized. Where one is actually appreciating soul. One is appreciating the presence of the soul and is not really making that is what is really attracting the attention of someone who has Brahman realization. For them, the differences of the material bodies are really insignificant. What is appreciated is that which is invigorating each body, and that's the spirit soul. So that's kind of a level of spiritual vision. So
because we're still in the bodily conception, we're still
Yeah,
identifying everyone as bodies rather than the spirit soul.
yeah. I
Yes.
mean, intellectually, we can read and we can apply that
But
in our vision, but that's what we are doing. We are doing it intellectually and we're applying it. But that's the path. That's the sadhan while practicing Krishna consciousness to actually be blessed with such an appreciation of everyone being a spirit soul. So it helps us in our stage to at least intellectually understand very clearly the difference between the soul and the body. But here, what's being described here, when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different bodies and sees how beings are expanded everywhere. So that is we could say that is a extraordinary vision of the world. You're appreciating soul. Now sometimes devotees may get little, even sometimes glimpses into that, where Krishna may reveal that factually, where you appreciate everyone for being a being and you're not at all judging them according to their body, black, white, male, female. Even in animals, one is appreciating life. Whether it's Russian, Ukrainian, Israeli, Palestinian, whatever you want to call it, a Chelsea fan or Arsenal fan, yeah,
As
whatever it
Mataji
may be.
said, it's very difficult to.
Yeah, or here in America, Republican, Democrat. There's so many different designations that people identify with, but it's all meaningless at the end of the day. Yeah, it's all meaningless at the end of the day. All these material designations will mean nothing when I think Prabhupada comments he had that realization when he was a young man and there was riots in Kolkata between Muslims and Hindus. And he said all he saw the next day was the municipality coming and gathering up all the bodies. Whether they're Hindus or Muslims, they just gathered up all the bodies on a truck and just, took them to the crematorium. So Prabhupada was not appreciating the slaughter or the killing of Muslims and Hindus, but he was so what is it, what's this differentiation between different bodies? So yeah, so you're right, Mother Rajkishore. It's something which, at least intellectually, we should have a very good grasp on. Then as we get purified, as the heart gets purified, we can hope to have such a vision. Yeah. And that will be as a consequence of Krishna consciousness that we see. And we'll be able to interact with everyone based on the fact that they are spirit soul. Yeah. Just like Srila Prabhupada, when he would meet with reporters, or even, if he would meet with reporters, he wouldn't be in the mode exactly of, I'm meeting with a reporter. He would see a spirit soul in front of him asking questions, and he'd feel compassion for them and instruct them in Krishna consciousness. Or when he would meet famous people, he wasn't at all enamored by their position in the material society. He would just see a spirit soul who is being estranged from Krishna, and he would preach to them. Just like when he met the Beatles, he met John Lennon and George Harrison, etc. Prabhupada was not the slightest bit fazed about their stature, not the slightest. He just saw suffering spirit souls, and he preached to them. Yeah, Prabhupada wasn't. If we was going to meet the most famous rock band on the planet, we might be a little bit anxious of what we're going to say. or what type of impression we're going to make. But Prabhupada was completely, completely seeing with a spiritual vision that their material designations didn't mean anything. Okay? But it reminds me as well when Prabhupada was in the car with Ambarish. You know, Ambarish who's financing the TOVP. He's the grandson of Henry Ford. And I was driving past a Ford factory. And I think, if I remember rightly, there was a big statue of his grandfather. So Prabhupada said, well, where is he now? In what species of life is he now? Prabhupada was saying, so where is he now? He was such a great man. He's speaking about Ambarish's grandfather, who everyone had great appreciation for. He said, so where is he now? Just another spirit soul. Yeah. Anybody else? Any comments on this? So the next verse is going to say how he then sees things were explained in the next verse. All right, so some more details that are going to be given. Yeah, sorry, keep going on a bit, but I remember one time I was on a book distribution with a Prabhupada disciple. What's his name? Prabhupada disciple in Prigupati. I don't even remember. He was temple president at our temple, not for long, but he was here in London, and we went on book distribution together. And we was on the bus, and all of a sudden he was bright eyed, and he was asking me to look, don't you see? Don't you see? Everyone just spirit souls. And it seemed like he was having this Vigyan realization that it's just spirit souls wandering around in these temporary bodies. And he was in great appreciation of Krishna's energy manifesting as parts and parcels. He was completely ecstatic. He was pointing to me to see the same thing. I couldn't see. I could appreciate intellectually, but he was seeing something that was being revealed in his heart. He was seeing reality. He was actually seeing souls encased in bodies. He was actually seeing. I remember he was quite emphatic, and it was an ecstatic bus ride with him, that's for sure. All right. Yeah. If you have a look at text 32, quite short purports here. So, okay, Mohini Gopika, you like to read?
Is it text 32?
Yeah, text 32. Have a go at the Sanskrit.
Anaditvan nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayaha sarirostitipi konteya na karoti na lipyate. Lipyate. Those with a vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Purport. A living entity appears to be born because of the birth of the material body, but actually the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in a material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus he cannot be destroyed. By nature he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activities. Therefore, the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him.
Okay. Welcome, Baba Chandravali. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, so this is a further elaboration. Those are the vision of eternity. So there's no going back at this point. How can you take material life seriously? once you've had this vision, once you're seeing from the perspective of eternity. And that's why Prabhupada then elaborates in the purport, or unless in the verse here as well. So with that vision, with that realization, although one is within the material body, one doesn't become entangled. Yeah, he says here, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So that's, again, as Mother Raj Kishore said, it's perhaps difficult to really appreciate fully, but someone with that vision of eternity. Yeah, and Prabhupada says then he does not engage himself in any material activities because one has seen the truth. One has seen the absolute truth. So once you've seen the absolute truth, how can you possibly take the material world seriously? How can you possibly take material pursuits as being the goal of life? Okay, out of duty you may do, out of duty, according to your specific situation, but you cannot. How's it possible when you've had this realization? Yeah. Especially if you're a devotee and you're directed specifically what to do with that realization. You serve Krishna. Yeah, you don't just you don't just walk around with some type of you know, oh, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen everyone's a spirit soul. Yeah, actually, you actually engage in practical service. I think I mentioned this story before. Sorry if I bore you by telling you again. I'm sure just let me know if you heard it too many times. Say. But I remember this man, I was doing Sankirtan, and we was in the street by Liverpool Street Station, and it was very busy, and there wasn't much, and we were standing on one side, and about 8 foot away was this guy selling London buses and flags and hats, those tourist stalls.
Touristy things.
Yeah, and he kept on he was like staring at me, and I thought any moment he's going to come over and give me a mouthful and tell me to move because I might be distracting his customers. I was just waiting for it. Anyway, he did come over and I braced myself. I thought, right, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm just going to say, yes, sir, no problem. We shall move on. I was said, I'm not going to get entangled with it. But he didn't. He came to me and he said, you see everyone here? You see this tower over there? You see that clock tower? He said, it's all meaningless.
Oh, wow.
It's all meaningless. It's all temporary. Yeah. And he went on to explain Brahman realization.
Wow.
What his qualification was to actually have that. Perhaps because he's standing at a market stall and watching thousands of people every day going past, every day, probably for 15, 20 years. And he was blessed with this realization of Brahman, how actually there's a soul moving everything, and that actually all of the jobs they're doing, all of they're rushing is all pointless. So I had Bhagavad Gita. I was so excited. Wow, for God, he's got to take a Bhagavad Gita, surely. But he wouldn't take one because he already knew everything, as far as he was concerned. Yeah, he already knew. No, it's okay. I know. I understand. So he couldn't go any further. He couldn't take up devotion to that supreme from which all life comes from. Yeah. Perhaps in his next life, perhaps. But he wouldn't take a book. He was already, convinced he didn't need to. And I couldn't convince him. I wasn't competent enough. It's a shame. I'm sure other expert book distributors will have, thought of something to get him to take a book. Anyway, like that. So yeah. So then also here, this sentence these few words here. And by nature, who's full of bliss. So Brahma Bhuta Pasana Atmana Sochite Nakanchite. So the cause of all lamentation is not having this vision. Not having this Brahman vision is the cause of all lamentation and anxiety. So when you have this vision, there is nothing for you to lament for, nothing for you to hanker materially. There is no lamentation. And from that point, one is going to move in such a way that one doesn't get entangled. Sounds attractive, huh? All right. Any other comments or questions?
Surely, even people who had that vision that this is eternal, unless they are on like a stage of Srila Prabhupada, could be some ordinary president or like GBC or somebody. There would be times when the other mode will come and attack, and they'll forget that this is eternal soul and I am an eternal soul.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Unless they got a specific sadhana to actually follow their realization up with, a specific lifestyle, then there's a good chance they're going to get overcome, by the lower material propensities. Because the
Yes.
material energy is very powerful. I mean, that man on the stall, he had some type of realization. Whether I didn't, the quality of his life there on after, he could probably just imagine it. He's had this realization to some degree. Then he goes down to the pub with his friends, He's trying to express some type of deep philosophical things at the bar. And he's probably got a bit of potency in what he's saying. But what's the point of it? Unless you come to Krishna consciousness, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, maybe because he's probably doing it for years and years and years and seeing so many people just repeating.
Yeah.
The pennies dropped in his mind that what is this all about? It's the same old thing. But he doesn't see it, the spiritual. He hasn't gone deep enough to say, there is something more beyond this everyday same old thing.
Yeah. I guess it varies because you do get some people whose lives it does change.
Yes.
And they go on some type of pseudo spiritual and their life just change. They may join a Buddhist society, they, may move to Indonesia, they may, their life may change, and others may not, But at least that's why Krishna consciousness is so wonderful, because it's the lifestyle. You have a specific practice, a specific sadhana, and you just build on that realization. And when you realize, of course, the bliss that comes from realizing we are not material is quite blissful. But then the bliss of realizing Krishna, what's it, Ken? Vigyan Maya. Those different levels of Maya that we mentioned, different levels of consciousness, Anamaya, Pranamaya, Vigyan Maya, and Anandamaya. So these different levels of realization of the absolute. Yes. All right, let's have a look at text 33, shall we? Did we read it already?
No, we did 32. No. So we're on 33.
Any Mother Mohini Gopika, did you read this one yet? No,
I read 32.
You read 32, okay.
Yeah.
Someone like to read 33?
I can read with
Go
funny
ahead.
grit. Yatha sarva gatam sokshmiyad akasham no pil. Oh, come on. Can somebody
No
read that?
lipyate. No palipyate.
You can read the whole slok.
Savatra Sarvatra stito dehi tatatma no palipyate. So no palipyate is repeated twice. Let's see what it means. Go on. Carry
Okay,
on.
I can read the translation.
Flixes, yes.
The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body, purport. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to its subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how it is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this.
Yeah, okay. Let me just, I was a bit distracted. Let me just read the verse again. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision, so that vision of eternity, does not mix with the body, although situated in that body. Yeah. Otherwise, without this knowledge, one is all mixed up. One is mixed up within the body. One's consciousness or one's hopes or one's dreams, all invested in the body. This is mentioned more than one time as well in the Bhagavad Gita about the nature of the soul. Actually, it actually does not do anything. You know, it's all being done by the material energy. Yeah. It's not the spirit soul that's walking up the stairs. It's the body. Yeah. The body is being, I can say it's the body carrying the soul upstairs or down the stairs. It's not the soul is not. It's actually the material energy.
Mm.
So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, our body is no more, you could say it's no more, I guess it is, it has some relationship because by our activities, by our karma, we get a certain shape of body, certain type of body. But actually, our body is no more significant to us than the brick wall.
Mm.
It is because it's matter. They're both made of matter, and it's just for some time, our body is no more significant to us than someone else's body. It just happens to be the type of body we've got presently.
Mm.
But actually, we've had so many different bodies. Yeah. Yeah. So this is speaking about and the realization even for someone who's still embodied. Like I was reading recently, started reading, I need to complete the reading. It's teachings of Jad Bharat to Maharaj Rahugana. And he's speaking from this platform of Brahman realization of eternity. And Maharaj Rahugana is blaspheming him in different ways to begin with. And then Jad Bharat speaks this transcendental knowledge. And he's speaking with total realization because he has recall of his previous births.
Mm.
So he says to them, to the king, so you calling me a stupid fellow, you calling me incapable? Yes. And he starts to speak about this actual point, Atma Tattva, because that's how he sees things. Another one is Sukadev Goswami. He was so detached, from identifying with the body that he walk around naked. It was naga, walk around naked, no identification at all. You know that part in the Srimad Bhagavatam where he walks past some girls that are bathing.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, he's completely unaffected, and they can see he's completely unaffected. You know, he's completely has no identification with the material world whatsoever. You know. But then when his father passed, then they covered themselves. Yeah. Vyasadeva passed because he's Grihastha, and so he may have realization, but he's acting on the platform of differentiation between male and females. Yeah, so they covered. But Sukadeva Goswami, completely aloof. All right, let's any comments or questions?
From this, it just
Yeah.
shows that like the air doesn't mix, and similarly, the soul doesn't mix with the body. It's just aloof.
No, yeah.
Which is a,
Yeah, but yeah, we tend to mix it.
yeah.
Because we identify with the body and we identify with the subtle body. And then the soul identifies with that which is identifying with.
Mm.
So when we experience lamentation and happiness or lamentation, then we identify that, you know. So that's called the duality of the material world.
So the soul doesn't feel anything then. So basically, when you're lamenting, or the soul is just totally aloof. It's just not involved.
Yeah, that's what's being described. That's what's being described. It's more like it's observing the state of the subtle body. Yeah. Just like if we're in illusion or we're feeling not so good, we're actually feeling depressed. That's the soul who's commentating on the state of our subtle body.
Mm-hmm.
For you understand? For us to say I am depressed, the I is different from what is depressed. You know, I am depressed. That means you as a soul
The
are
body,
commenting
the
on
mind, the
on the
body.
state of your subtle body. Then I am happy. So you, the soul, commenting on the state of your subtle body, mind, and intelligence. You're just commenting upon the state you're in.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite subtle. But the soul itself is not entangled. It's not, the soul is not depressed. I guess the soul by nature is full of bliss, but that blissfulness gets covered due to the misidentification with the material body. But we are commenting upon the state of our subtle body.
So when you leave the body, then when the soul leaves the body, and you say the subtle nature, it carries the subtle nature. So it must have some imprints of how we behaved in our material bodies, because when you get the next body, it's taken on some of the imprints of your nature.
Yes,
Yet it's aloof.
yeah, so it's exactly that. So due to that identification, then the subtle body takes on a specific form. Yeah, takes on a specific identity, takes on a specific, and that's what will, according to your subtle body and the makeup of your subtle body, due to misidentification throughout one's life, and the subtle body that you have created, due to that entanglement, then that's the type of life you get in the next life. Like that's why it said, yam yam vapismarim bhavam traitate antakevalam tam tam vivedikuntaya sada tat bhava bhavataha. So whatever state of body, whatever state one's mind is at the time of death, then that state one will attain without fail. And that depends upon the life you've led. So yam yam vapismaren bhavam. So that means we should meditate upon Krishna. And we develop emotions in relationship to Krishna, and we develop an identity in relationship to Krishna. Then yam yam vapi smarin bhavam. Then in the next life we get, of course, spiritually, as one's developing one's spiritual identity, then one's material subtle body is being dissolved. But still, that same point of, meditation now, meditating upon Krishna, meditate upon the Lord's servants, the Lord's associates, and developing spiritual emotions, a spiritual subtle body in relationship to a Krishna, in a particular relationship. Then next life, that's quite obvious what type of where you're going to go, what type of body you're going to get. Yep.
So becoming a devotee, you never go down in the species. Like Prabhupada says, you don't know where you're going to be in your next life. But if you do become a devotee, does it mean that, you won't go into the animal kingdom?
Well, generally, yes, but sometimes it may happen. I mean, it happened to Jad Bharat, it happened to Maharaj Bharat.
Yeah.
He took body as. Actually, I was reading recently. Prabhupada was speaking about pets and dogs and things like that, and he said we should be very careful. Devotees are very careful, for instance, not to shouldn't become over attached to dogs or cats. I remember reading that. Prabhupada said directly, otherwise a devotee may have to take birth again in the body of a dog or something. So generally, no, but sometimes that may be the case. Yeah. Hopefully, but again, there's no loss of diminution. So even just like Maharaj Bharat, he took birth as a deer. His devotional development or his devotional credentials also went with him. So in the body of a deer, he remembered his past Krishna conscious activities. So Krishna will always protect the devotee, but sometimes the devotee may have to learn because of undue attachment. Then one may have to take birth in the lower species of life. But still, that will be a step back to go forward. And sometimes in order to go forward, you have to make a mistake. So sometimes it's like that with devotees. Sometimes to go forward, then they may have to fall down to develop a bit of humility.
Unfulfilled desire.
Yeah, and then or unfulfilled desires, they're hanging on. So Krishna, even though it said it's offensive to hang on to material attachment, still the devotee may think, meditate, think about it. Okay, then you're going to have to, then Krishna, then maybe that you have to actually, you may fall away, and then you try to futilely fulfill that desire, and then you realize, what was the point? I was fooled by the material energy. The material energy made a complete fool of me. I thought I could enjoy like this or like that, but actually I'm just suffering.
Makes sense.
Krishna's very kind. So if we won't let go voluntarily, Krishna's gonna if we won't let go voluntarily based on study of Bhagavatam about the futility of the material world, then we may have to experience it by Krishna's grace. And at that time, we may, okay, that's it. I'm done. Twama kinchana gochara. Yeah. That's why some devotees maybe go to the heavenly planets, They may harbor these desires and they go to heavenly planets just to realize that there's no happiness there compared to there's no, okay, and now I'm in the heavenly planets, but I was much happier when I was cleaning the stairs in the temple on planet Earth. Actually, I was much happy. I was much more happy on Harinam than I am in these heavenly planets, and it's very difficult here. I get
They remember that, would they?
I don't know if I just and it might do Krishna. No, it's kind of a subtle thing where It's more subtle. Devotees won't feel, they just won't feel happy. There'll be something missing. If a devotee goes to the heavenly planets by Krishna's grace, they're going to see the futility of it. You know, and they're going to
going to these places just prolong your material life longer and longer, happiness for a long, long time. Eternally, you've got to come back to the same situation. So
yeah.
might as well just get on with it and just go
Yeah,
back.
that's the overriding lesson that is being taught in the Bhagavatam as well. And that Prabhupada says it again and again. You know, why waste our time? From the topmost planet down to the bottommost planet, Bhagavad Gita says all are places of repeated misery where birth and death takes place. Yeah. Also, Bhagavatam says, for he who is actually intelligent, Kovida. Yeah. He who is actually intelligent aspires that which cannot be obtained by wandering from the topmost planet down to the bottommost planet. They aspire for Vaikuntha. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we see, isn't it? Devotees practicing Krishna conscious for some time, and they go back, futilely trying to enjoy. Futile. Yeah, a futile attempt to enjoy. Hopefully they get embarrassed, you know, by their futile attempt to enjoy and come back with some humility. Or sometimes it may be Krishna wants to speed up their going back to Godhead. So therefore he may want the devotee has to be more determined. So I'm going to make him more determined. So to make him more determined, he's going to have to, you know, get rid of these material desires that he's hanging on to. Anyways, how Krishna deals with everyone is quite amazing. Yeah, everyone's on their own journey, you know. Jabbar was on his own journey, Dhruva Maharaj was on his journey, you know. All the devotees in Bhagavatam, they all have a specific journey they're on. And all of us as well, all on their specific journeys, hopefully going up. All right, let's have a look at text 34, shall we? Now, I have to tune out a few minutes early today because we got a online Pujari online with London, with devotees in London for our work, for our teaching we're doing. So,
Okay.
we're 5 minutes early, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, text 34. Perhaps I have a read of this one. Ita pakashyati eka krishnam lokam imam bravi shetram shetri tata krishnam pakasyati bharata. All right, it's only... All right. We should finish these two, then we can start chapter 14 next week. O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does the living entity within the body illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Okay, this is some practical example here. There are various theories regarding consciousness. Here in Bhagavad Gita, the example of the sun and the sunshine is given. As the sun is situated in one place but is illuminating the whole universe, so a small particle of spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul, as sunshine or light is the proof of the presence of the sun. When the soul is present in the body, there is consciousness all over the body. And as soon as the soul has passed from the body, there is no more consciousness. This can be easily understood by any intelligent man. Therefore, consciousness is not the product of the combination of matter. It is the symptom of the living entity. The consciousness of the living entity, although qualitatively one with the supreme consciousness, is not supreme, because the consciousness of one particular body does not share that of another body. But the super soul, which is situated in all bodies as the friend of the individual soul, is conscious of all bodies. That is the difference between the supreme consciousness and individual consciousness. Okay? Right? So not hard to appreciate or understand. Yeah? You have the sun, and compared to the size of the universe, the sun is relatively quite small. Yet sunlight spreads everywhere, except in England. Sometimes it does. Yeah. So same with the soul within the body. It spreads through the blood, actually. The consciousness is spread through the blood. That's why you ever got a numb leg where you stop the flow of blood somewhere and you can't feel it. When you get up, you're trying to walk and it's funny, isn't it? You can't feel your leg, it's gone numb. Your consciousness has gone from the leg because the blood carries a consciousness. You know? And they use this principle in what's it called? In hospital when anesthetic, what's it called? Anesthesia.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, there's a whole science to that, you know. Yeah, when especially at the dentist where they stick a needle in your gum. Anyway, so this is quite easy to grasp, isn't it? At least
Yeah.
intellectually. Yeah, so it's so clear, isn't it? It's so clear. It's so well explained in Bhagavad Gita. That's why it gets me sometimes. You see these philosophers, these Gyanis, they have discussions on the soul and is reincarnation true or not, and they come up with all these types of speculations. Why don't I just read Bhagavad Gita? It's very, very clearly explained what is consciousness, you know, what's the difference between a Prabhupada. Such simple example, isn't it, to help you understand. Yeah. When the soul leaves the body, then the body is the body is of no use. Yeah, there's no life there. Why? Because the soul has left. There is no more consciousness. Prabhupada says, he's almost pleading, this can be easily understood by any intelligent man. So that could say, more or less, Prabhupada saying that there's no one who is intelligent. They can't understand this. It's easily understood by any intelligent man. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain, consciousness is not a combination of matter, and that's the whole major preaching point for Prabhupada. All right, let's read this to finish. Text 35. Satta Shatkanayo evam anantaram gana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye vido yanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body. Okay, remember we mentioned that before? You see through you are seeing, it's not as if you see a soul leave a body. Through knowledge, you know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Those who see with eyes of knowledge, that was what we just heard, what we're reading Bhagavad Gita, the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can then understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature. So could say that's Krishna consciousness. Attain the supreme goal. So it's a nice last verse, isn't it? Kind of describing what we said. Yeah, and now you have to know the process as well. You can know the difference, but you have to know the process. So sambandha. So these three things are being described here, isn't it? Sambandha, the knowledge between the body and the process, abhidaya, and the goal, the supreme goal. It's all in this. All these it's in this verse very clearly. Okay, purport. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body the owner of the body, and the supersoul. Okay, that's what we should have know or realize studying this 13th chapter. One should recognize the process of liberation as described through verses 8 through 12. Do you remember those verses? Amanbit vam, adambit vam, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, yes, surrender to a spiritual master, aspiring to live in a solitary place, etc. Detachment from the world. You know, you can look at that in your own time. Go back to 8 to 12. Yeah. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. Surrender to the spiritual master is the most important point there. A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God, and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit. Okay. And that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. So there's more to come, yeah? There's more to come than just realizing we're not the body. That will be the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations. One can understand that this body is matter. It can be analyzed with its 24 elements. The body is the gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation is the mind and psychological effects, and the symptoms of life are the interaction of these features. But over and above this, there is the soul, and there is also the supersoul. The soul and the supersoul are two. This material world is working by a conjunction of the soul and the 24 material elements. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation can see, I want to read that again. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and material elements can also see the situation of the Supreme Soul becomes eligible to transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and realization. And one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. Okay? So we're not just meant to read this, we're meant to think about it. Yeah? We have to contemplate it. Think about this. Contemplate it, deeply. Meditate upon these things, Any final little question or comment? I probably have to sign out. Okay,
Very
I better.
interesting.
Yeah, interesting, is it, to hear this? Yeah, it's amazing how many times I've read Bhagavad Gita, but each time we read it, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. All right. Now, I won't be in tomorrow. We normally have Wednesday. Is it we have Bhagavatamrita?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, 1,000 feet. Yeah, flying back to England, flying back to tomorrow. So I won't be able to do tomorrow, but we'll be able to do our Thursdays through the Bhakti Chintamani, because we'll be arriving early on Thursdays, so it should be okay. Okay. Thank you, devotees, for joining
Hare
us.
Krishna.
And don't forget, we have to contemplate these things, meditate upon them. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Hare.
Bhagavatam
Hare
ki
Bol.
jai.